Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shaostoul and this is the 4th episode of Modder's Mod Review, the series where we check out mods from a modder's perspective. As a reminder, if you find or are the author of a mod, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below on a mod you'd like reviewed and I'll see what I could do. In this episode we're going to be reviewing the DarthBiomech's Stairwell mod. This one right here. So this is a pretty simple mod. It adds 2 stairwells, a lighted version and a unlighted version. So it gives you a little bit of variety. We can see here that they are indeed colorable. It has 10,000 subs for being out for just about a week. He decided to make them because they are a great alternative to what's available presently. So it's an easy way to build a bunch of compact stairs to multiple decks real easily. So it's a good idea. He did it very cleanly and it works very well. They're supposed to be stairs. They are large ship only and they are adapted for survival. And here he says they might not work properly if skewed in relation to the gravity. So that means that if you're trying to walk up or down these stairs, your head collision might have issues with hitting the stairs on the side if you're at some of an angle. Probably something like a 15 to 30 degree angle. It might start giving a little bit of a problem. But yeah, that looks to be about it. It's fairly simple. It's just these 2 blocks. So we're going to go ahead and just boot up Space Engineers and check them out. And hopefully everything goes according to plan this time. Alright, so custom world and lone survivor. Alright, so we're going to type stairwell. So I have one little tidbit I would suggest here is that he adds DarthBiomech or Darth or something in front and then dash stairwell. Because I'm pretty sure other people are going to add stairwells, especially after this idea that Darth came up with, and you might have a conflict of trying to find out which one's which. There is a little bit of an idea of how he could do it. Instead of having it in the name, he could, in the description of the mod, say DarthBiomech's Stairwell mod on the description of the workshop page. So here you can see it has description and then the bold formatting and then the description of it. Now, if he was to put DarthBiomech in there, it'd make it easier to identify them as his. It's not really a big issue, but it would make some things a little bit easier for some people, especially when more come out. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and change some of these settings real quick. And that should be good. Go to realistic, see how fast they are to grind down. Lone survivor, safe and offline. And we'll just go ahead and press OK. So yeah, it's just a quality of life thing of having that DarthBiomech there somewhere. Because I've seen a lot of mods that use very similar names. And it's just easier to identify them, especially because Darth has a bunch of mods out. It might be good for him to group them together like that on a workshop list like that. Alright, so here we are in game. I started placing the stairwells last time I tried recording and my computer crashed, so hopefully it doesn't this time. I don't think it's Darth's fault, I think it's just old computer faults. Alright, so here we are in the block menu, and scrolling down we could find Darth's icons here, and they look really clean. They look almost like the vanilla ones, so that's really good. On the left we could find a tab over here where he has his blocks as well, and it's not a thing that a modder can really do. We can't hide the tab if a certain block count is under a certain amount. If somebody was to do a mod GitHub wise to edit the source and the developers were to integrate it, it'd work. But my point is, you get a tab on the side and it only has a few blocks in it. It kind of sucks because it clutters this up quite a bit when you just have a whole bunch of single tabs of single blocks. But if you were to have all of DarthBiomech's mods, it wouldn't be an issue because it would fill this up pretty well. But yeah, that's something that the devs could fix, but it shouldn't really be an issue for Darth because it's not something he can directly control. Alright, so we got them on the hotbar, and we're just going to check them out real quick. So let's go ahead and check the mount points since we haven't placed them yet. In here we could see that we have a mount point at the foot there, one around this back plate there, so that means it's fairly secure in mounting, and then this top section here is fairly well mounted. And the way it's set up, that mount point right down there will allow us to attach to this mount point up here, so we can directly vertically stack them without having to have any kind of support walls next to them, which is fairly nice and allows you to have a very compact stairwell without relying on anything else. Alright, so that's the light version, that's the unlighted version, no difference. The only difference is cosmetically and a little bit of function. So we're going to go ahead and just add 4 of those, and we'll add 4 of those. Alright, so actually let's move them a little bit closer to make this easier. Alright, so this is pretty straightforward. I'm just going to build a little room here for these so we can see the way they act differently. There we go. Alright. So come back into here, and here's the lighted version. As we can see, they have a light right there, none there, and then one there. And that's because you can only have one light empty per block, so it makes sense to only have it in one space. Coming over to this side, we can see there's no lights, but everything looks to be good. I like the little emissives on the steps because it makes it easier to see them in the dark, especially if you're to get one of those dark mods that make it very, very dark. So as we can see now, it got just a little bit darker as I was in the shade long enough. But coming down this version, everything looks fine. You could space these out so it kind of works together and you don't have to worry about them interfering with one another, and you don't have too many lights for it. Let's go ahead and add a terminal. Let's go ahead and add a small reactor. And let's access this. And here we can see there's only the lit ones in here, which is good. Let's go ahead and increase the radius and the intensity and see how it looks. Alright, so here's one little thing that I'd probably suggest. It looks like he has the orientation of the empty so that when you scale it up, the empty actually goes this way towards the wall, which is only a problem because it means if you want a very tall stairway, that the light's going to be on this side and not this side. Now what he could do is slightly change the orientation of the empty like 90 degrees, so instead of going out that way, it goes down. And that's a relatively easy fix, and it shouldn't break any of the blocks at all. So that's something for him to keep in mind if he wants to make it a little bit better, so the center of the stairwell is lit instead of this wall. Alright, let's go ahead and look at the collisions of the two. So we'll go back here, let's get rid of mount points and throw that up. So here we can see the collisions. He has a ramp for just the steps, and then a platform for here, and then a platform for up on the top, and it's the same between the two of them. Now that's pretty much what I would have done. There isn't too much else he could do to make it better. The only problem that people might have is that you can't weld from some angles. You have to weld by looking at a collision box. So if somebody for some reason was having an issue getting at it, they'd have to make sure they aim at this red box here. Otherwise they're not going to be able to aim at these bars. But it's a small enough difference that it shouldn't give you any issues. So yeah, we could definitely see what he means by having an issue with them being so short and having an angle on the ship for causing an issue, because right here you don't have too much head space. I can actually hop into third person and you can see that that circle is our collision box. So we just barely snugly fit in here. So if I was to add a couple armor blocks right there, you can see it's a very snug fit. So if we were to start getting at an angle, once that bottom sphere right there got at enough an angle, it would make it so you couldn't walk up and down these stairs. So it would be a good idea to be careful with that, or maybe use some kind of interior wall that would give you just a little bit more space out for the legs, so when you do get that angle you'll be fine. But that looks pretty much okay. You can see that he actually uses two different types of collision boxes. This one here is actually a mesh, a convex shape, and then this one is actually just a primitive, so that lets him have a more optimized build, which is good on his part because he's thinking for the future of his model and wanting to make sure people can have as many of these things as possible. Alright, so let's go ahead and get rid of the physics primitives, and let's look at the model dummy real quick. And here you can see the model dummies right there. Well, now we know why it is going out into the wall, and it's because it's angled at like a 45 degree. If you wanted to change it to be straight down, it'd be better, but it makes sense for the design. I personally would suggest making it face down, that way it lights the other side of the stairwell, and I think it might just be a little cosmetically better, but how it is makes sense. I remember hearing their argument for why they move the model dummy when it gets brighter and when the radius increases, and I think it's kind of dumb, but at the same time it makes sense. But it's whatever. It's the developer's choice, not mine. Theirs. Alright, so that pretty much covers that. Let's look at the build costs of these things. Alright, so there's 7 construction components, 17 interior plates, and a bulletproof glass for the lit one, and no bulletproof glass for the unlit one, which is fantastic. So that means that they are pretty well balanced. Looking at what we have available, they are cheaper than these catwalk pieces, which is kind of nice. So that means that you can build a lot of these for a lot cheaper. And they are cheaper than the diagonal window, and they are cheaper than the stairs. So these are a great alternative to what's vanilla available. Alright, and I think that pretty much covers it. We got the basic names, and let's go ahead and check out the code for them. I think they should be pretty simple. I think it's going to be an interior light and just like an armor block. So let's go ahead and open up folder. I'll snap it to the side here. And then go to mods. And then let's see, his is 649, so it should be relatively towards the bottom. 649. 590, so it's this one right here. So copy paste, select it, change it to a .zip. Yes, and then go ahead and extract to the folder and scroll up, and there it is. Alright, so he has a readme right here. Let's see what kind of information it has. He has some installation information, where it goes typically. So if you type this in the search bar, I believe it is, down here, it'll bring up the app data window here. And then delete the older version of the mod if you have it, unpack the folder with the mod into the mods folder. So I believe this is pretty much the way to install it manually if you want to do local mods instead of downloaded mods. So this is kind of excessive, but you know, he's very thorough. He's good at what he does. And it looks like he has a link to his DeviantArt and on his official forums for his profile. Alright, so that's pretty good. We have his thumbnail, and it's pretty small, so that means that it's not going to take up too much upload or too much space to download. Let's check out his textures. He has them sorted into a DarthBiomech folder, and then it's GUI, and then it's the Stairwell. So that's just the icons. Wonder where he has his textures hidden. He's probably using vanilla textures at that point if he doesn't have anything in here. So that might be a good idea for people to keep in mind. The devs have a texture folder. I'll show you how to get there after I check out the rest of this mod. Here we have his models. You can see that there's the unlit and the lit, and then the progress models between the two. So these are shared, and then it goes to one of the others. And then we go back, we go into data. Here we can see his block categories. And it looks pretty straightforward. It looks like he has them separated into a DarthBiomech folder or a tab, and then they go into the large black tab. So that's something to keep in mind if you want to have your stuff in the different tabs, even the vanilla ones. Just make sure you get the proper name here and the proper display name here, and they should mesh right well with it. So that's a good thing that he did that. It's a great example for you guys. He has a transparent materials. So this is the no glare light. So more or less what he's doing with this is he's hiding that really ugly white splotch that you see with interior lights. And I think that's a nice touch. It makes it a little bit more cosmetically pleasant, especially considering you are just at eye height with that thing. So it's not going to kill your eyes looking at it all the time. And then we go into the cube blocks. It looks like he uses the dev's format for tabbing everything, where he uses spaces instead of tabs. I like using the tabs because I think it's easier to clean. But yeah. So here we can see the interior light, as I said, in a cube block. And he has no block positions because you don't really need them anymore. They just sort things in the all tab, and you don't really want to conflict with the vanilla files for that. And it's kind of hard to contend with other people because you could have 200 mods in a server, and there's no way you could plan as a modder to properly utilize all these block positions. And here we can see all the mount points and his build progress. It takes about 15 seconds to build it, so that's pretty good. There is no increased deconstruction time or lower deconstruction time, so it's going to be 15 seconds either way. And it looks like he has mirroring set up, so that's good. And yeah, his code here is pretty straightforward. It's very clean, which is very nice. I've dealt with some pretty ugly mods before, but this one is definitely a good job on his part. Alright, so as I was saying earlier, he has no textures here. There's no textures folder. There's no files in here for you to actually utilize. Now, if you wanted to actually see what he was using, you would probably have to get access to his XML, which would involve asking him permission to get that, and he would have to send it to you because he doesn't include the source files in here. But if you want to see where you can access those files and the vanilla textures, if you wanted to use them and do what he did here, you go to local disk C, and then you go to wherever you have Steam installed, and then you go to Steam Apps, Common, Space Engineers, Content, and Textures, And this is where all the vanilla textures will end up being. So he's probably linking to some of them in the cubes folder right here. So he's probably grabbing some in here and making it all work there. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up his mod. It is very clean, very efficient. I'm not too sure on the poly count, but it looks very good. It seems like he did a good job, and gotta commend him on that. He's always stepping up. He's raising the bar in quality of mods. That's what he's doing. Alright, well, I'll catch you guys in the next episode. As a reminder, if you find any mods or are the author of a mod, make sure to leave a comment in the comments section below. If you'd like to help me continue doing what it is I do, please check out my Patreon page. The link is in the description below. Not only does it help me out to create more mods, but also helps those that I teach to create mods of their own. It essentially allows me to continue dedicating all the time to what it is I do. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. You have a good one.